I was reborn as the woman who ruined me. Now I'm falling for the man who tried to save me. The ceiling above me was white, not hospital white, too ornate for that. It was carved, detailed, elegant in a way that screamed wealth and coldness. I sat up slowly, and the silk sheets slipped down my arms. My skin wasn't my skin. Slimmer, paler, nails perfectly polished. I scrambled off the bed and ran to the mirror on the opposite wall, my breath catching before I even got there. The face that looked back at me wasn't mine. Long black hair fell over sharp cheekbones. A beauty mark sat just beneath one eye like a cruel signature. Red lips, slender neck, familiar in the worst possible way. Sora Min. I staggered back. My stomach flipped. I grabbed the edge of the vanity as my knees almost buckled. Sora Min. The woman who destroyed everything. My career, my reputation, my engagement. Who seduced my fiancé, framed me for embezzlement, and stood back as I was dragged through the media like I was filth. I remembered the rooftop, the wind, the taste of metal in my mouth from the blood, and the fall, then blackness. But now I was here, and I was her. A soft knock on the door. I froze. "Miss Min?" a gentle voice called. "Breakfast is served, in the garden." I didn't speak. My throat closed up, thick with panic, but my feet moved on their own, guiding me toward the closet, where dozens of dresses hung like lifeless dolls waiting to be worn. I picked the simplest one, a cream-colored dress with long sleeves, and dressed quickly. The clothes hugged a body that still felt wrong. When I stepped out into the hallway, it hit me, the silence. This place wasn't a home, it was a mausoleum. Marble floors stretched endlessly beneath my feet. Everything gleamed but felt untouched. No warmth, no life. I followed the scent of coffee and lavender until I reached the garden. Manicured, symmetrical, not a petal out of place. A woman sat at the wrought iron table, sipping tea with perfect posture. She looked up, and the air turned colder. "Ah," she said, voice like polished glass. "You're awake." I stood frozen, that was all she said. No good morning, no smile. Her eyes scanned me, clinical and precise. "You missed your piano tutor yesterday, and your etiquette coach is due at noon. Do try not to embarrass me again." I opened my mouth. To say what? That I wasn't her daughter? That I had no idea how to play the piano, much less pretend to be this girl? Instead, I said nothing. "You're unusually quiet today," she remarked, placing her teacup down with care. "Are you finally learning restraint?" Her words stabbed without effort. Her tone didn't change. It wasn't anger. It was disappointment so deep it had gone quiet from overuse. "I'm just tired," I said. My voice was higher, softer than I remembered. My throat hurt with the effort of not screaming. She raised one perfect brow. "Then pull yourself together." And just like that, she dismissed me with a flick of her hand. I was expected to leave, like a servant. I stood, walked away slowly, back inside the house. My fingers trembled as I searched the bedroom again, this time with purpose. I found the phone on the nightstand, locked, Face ID. I hesitated, then looked at the mirror. "Let's see if this works," I muttered, and held the phone up. It unlocked instantly. I almost dropped it. The first thing I opened was the messages. My fingers moved through the screen, searching. A thread from a number labeled Hyun made my chest seize. Hyun, my ex-fiancé. The man who had promised me forever. The man I had once trusted with everything. "Last night was torture. I couldn't stop thinking of you in her house, in her bed. One more week. Then she's gone. And it's just you and me." The date was 3 months ago, so he had lied too. He and Sora, they were together while he was still mine. I backed out of the thread and clicked on another one. The name was unfamiliar. Tae. Just one message, short. Cold. "If you show up again, I won't hesitate this time." Something in me twisted. The name wasn't just a name, it was a scar. Taehyun. The one who saw me, the one who tried to stop me that night. The man who, for one moment, reached out his hand and tried to save Rin. And now, I was in the body of the woman he once put a gun to. I dropped onto the edge of the bed, phone still glowing in my hand. How could I live as her? How could I pretend, knowing what she'd done? Worse, how could I begin to unravel the truth? If I was the only one who remembered it. I wasn't ready to see him again. But I went anyway. Maybe it was the message. Maybe it was the need to understand if he remembered me, not Sora, not the shell I was trapped in, me, Rin. Or maybe I just needed to look him in the eyes and feel something that wasn't pure fear. Taehyun's office sat on the 63rd floor of a building that looked more like a blade stabbing into the sky than an actual place of work. Glass, steel, silence. Even the elevator music felt like it was holding its breath. The receptionist gave me a tight-lipped smile. "Miss Min, Mr. SEO is expecting you." I smiled back stiffly, clutching the portfolio I had found in Sora's study, filled with mock investment pitches and vague startup interests. The perfect cover. As I stepped into his office, the door closed behind me with a hiss. The temperature seemed to drop 5 degrees. He stood with his back to me, looking out over the city like a villain in a noir film. Tall, perfectly pressed suit, sleeves slightly rolled to reveal strong forearms. His presence filled the room like smoke, quiet but choking. "Miss Min," he said without turning, "you've changed your hair." I hesitated. It was time. He turned slowly, and his eyes found mine. Sharp, deep, haunted. I swallowed. My heartbeat wasn't steady. It hadn't been since I woke up in this body. But now it rattled inside my chest like it was trying to warn me. He stepped closer, calm, measured. "You requested a meeting," he said. "Something about a tech fund?" I nodded. Yes. I thought it was time the Min Foundation considered backing ventures outside their usual vanity projects. He didn't sit. Neither did I. Instead, he stared at me, unmoving, studying. "No pitch deck?" he asked. I held up the folder. "It's all in here." He took it, flipped it open, then immediately closed it again without looking. "You're not her," he said quietly. The words hit like a slap. I tried to breathe. I don't understand. "I don't need you to understand," he cut in. "I need you to stop pretending." Silence. "You speak with her voice," he continued, stepping even closer. "But your posture's different." She always led with her chin, arrogant, calculated. He leaned in, his voice low and dangerous. "But you're coiled. Like someone who's afraid they'll be punished for breathing too loud." My throat dried. I couldn't move. "And your eyes," he said, softer now. "They're not empty anymore. They're searching. Like someone who lost something or someone and never got it back." My body went cold. He knew. He felt it. I tried. "I don't know what you mean. Don't lie to me." The words were quiet. But I felt them in my bones. "I should have let her fall," he added after a pause. "That night, on the roof." I hesitated. I thought there might be something left in her worth saving. That was my mistake. I wanted to scream. "You did save her. You saved me." But my lips stayed shut, and so did the past. Instead, I whispered, "Why did you save her at all?" He exhaled, like the question itself was too heavy. "Because I thought..." He looked away, jaw clenched. I thought I saw someone else inside her. Someone scared. Someone real. My heart cracked. "You were there," I said before I could stop myself. "That night. When..." She almost jumped. He looked back at me sharply. I bit my tongue. Too much. I'd said too much. "She?" he echoed. Panic surged. "She, meaning me," I corrected, trying to recover. "Sometimes I feel like I was someone else back then." He didn't blink. More silence. Then he turned his back again, facing the skyline. "If this is some new manipulation," he said coldly, "it won't work. I won't let anyone get hurt again because I gave the wrong person the benefit of the doubt. I stayed still. I don't want your money. Or your offers, he added. I want one thing. My voice trembled. What? For you to stay away. I nodded slowly, but inside everything rebelled. Because even if I wanted to stay away, I couldn't. Because whatever pulled me into this body wasn't done yet, and neither was I. The bedroom looked warmer in the daylight. Cream-colored walls, blush curtains, a vanity covered in luxury cosmetics I didn't recognize. On the surface, it was beautiful, soft, feminine, safe. But there was something off about the air, like the room was holding its breath, like even the silence had a secret. I paced slowly, eyes scanning the space again. I'd already been here, slept here, pretended here, but I hadn't looked. Not really. I started opening drawers, pulling open closet doors, searching the back of shelves like I was following a scent. And then, near the far corner under the window, I noticed something strange. One floorboard was slightly raised at the edge. I dropped to my knees and pried at it gently with my fingernails until it lifted. Underneath was a small wooden box. Plain, unlabeled, locked with a simple gold clasp, no key, but the clasp snapped open with a little pressure. Inside was a diary, black leather, no name, no decoration. I sat down on the floor and opened it carefully, as if it might scream. The handwriting inside was neat but tense, every line pushed too hard into the paper. Some pages were water-stained, others had angry scratches where words had been violently crossed out. I turned to the first full entry. They told me I was lucky to be chosen, that this kind of arrangement is a privilege, a chance to prove my worth to the family. I wanted to believe that. I wanted to be useful, loved even. But I think I'm just being used. My stomach tightened, Sora, but not the Sora the world saw. Hyun says I should be more careful, that Rin is suspicious. But I've watched her. She trusts him completely. He knows how to lie to her. He's good at it, just like her father. My hands trembled. I turned the page. They want her to fall. That's the word they keep using. She'll fall, and we'll catch the pieces, like it's a game, like she's a doll to be broken. And I'm the one holding the hammer. I covered my mouth. I didn't mean to be the villain. I didn't ask for this. I didn't even know she was in love with him when it started, and when I did find out, it was too late. He already had something on me. They all did. I closed the book. My head spun. She was a monster. That's what I'd believed. What everyone had believed. But she was just a pawn, a frightened, cornered girl who couldn't say no to powerful men playing with other people's lives. And I was one of the pieces on the board. I opened the diary again, flipped to a later page. Her handwriting had changed, sloppier, more rushed. Rin looked at me yesterday. Really looked. I almost told her. But then Hyun sent that photo. Said if I breathed a word, he'd leak everything. My brother, the hospital, the debt. I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know whose side I'm on. I stared at the word hospital. The diary didn't explain. But it didn't have to. I understood one thing now. Sora wasn't innocent. She'd hurt me. She'd helped ruin me. But it hadn't been a game to her. It had been survival. And I might have done the same. What does it mean to forgive someone who destroyed you to keep herself alive? What does it mean to carry their face and their guilt? I set the book down slowly and looked around the room again, seeing it differently now. Not warm, not feminine, just a cage lined with silk, a cage I was now locked in too. There was a knock at the door. I froze. Miss Min? It was the same soft-spoken maid from this morning. Your mother wishes to know if you'll be joining her for tea. I cleared my throat. Tell her. I'm not feeling well. A pause. Very well, miss. I waited until the footsteps disappeared, then leaned against the wall. I didn't want tea. I wanted out of this house, this body, this truth. But I couldn't leave, not yet, not until I figured out everything. Because now I knew the truth, Sora didn't ruin my life alone. She just pulled the first thread, and someone else wove the rest. The cafe was tucked between a laundromat and a bookstore that looked permanently closed. From the outside, it didn't seem like much. Faded signage, a chipped blue door, and flower boxes that had long since given up on blooming. But the moment I stepped inside, something clicked. Warm wood, the scent of cinnamon and oversteeped tea, a distant piano tune playing from an old speaker. It wasn't mine, this memory, but it pulsed through me like déjà vu. This was where Sora used to hide. I took a seat in the corner booth. The waitress brought me chamomile tea without asking. A few minutes later, the bell above the door jingled again. She entered quietly, her coat still dusted with rain. Madame Choi. She didn't wear makeup. Her gray hair was twisted into a practical bun. Everything about her said, "No time for nonsense." And yet, when she saw me, her eyes softened. She sat across from me without a word. "You knew her," I said, folding my hands around the warm mug. "Sora." She didn't deny it. "I was her therapist for 3 years," she replied, "until she stopped showing up." My throat tightened. "Did she tell you what she was involved in?" She didn't need to. She came in with bruises on her voice. That answer hit me hard. It wasn't poetic. It was clinical, measured, true. She always spoke like she was being listened to. Even when we were alone, I looked down. Her mother? Madame Choi gave a tight nod, and her father, though she never mentioned him by name. Her family didn't raise her, they trained her. Every conversation was performance prep. Every smile was rehearsed. Sora was a brand before she was a girl. I felt the echo of that truth in my chest. I had lived among privilege too, but my father, he'd at least let me be a person. "She wasn't just cruel," I said quietly. "Was she?" "No," Madame Choi said. "She was terrified." She pulled something from her coat, a small spiral notebook, edges frayed. "She left this in my office the last time she came. I thought she might come back for it." I hesitated, then reached for it. Inside were short entries, fragments mostly. I kissed him. I think I wanted to believe it meant something. He smiled at me, then asked about her father. I don't know if it was me he wanted. I think it never was. I didn't need to guess who he was. "Hyun. She loved him," I whispered. "She needed him," Madame Choi corrected, which is not the same thing. I turned the page. Sometimes I think about running, just getting on a bus. But then I remember they'd find me. They'd ruin me worse than they ruined her. That made me look up sharply. She meant, me? Madame Choi studied me carefully. "I always wondered if Sora ever truly hated you, or if she was just trying to become you, because becoming herself felt impossible." My breath caught. "She didn't want to be you," she added. "She wanted your freedom, your ability to be loved without needing to earn it." My hands tightened around the notebook. "She tried to disappear," Madame Choi said softly. "More than once. But the world she was trapped in, it doesn't let girls like her vanish." Silence settled between us. Then, her voice even quieter, "She died, Rin. Not the way people think. But she died." I looked at her. Really looked. And she looked back like she knew. Knew I wasn't just mourning someone else. Knew that maybe I had died too. "She died," Madame Choi repeated. "Only, not completely." The bell over the door rang again. A couple entered laughing, their umbrella dripping onto the floor. It shook me from whatever trance I'd been in. I closed the notebook gently. "She left a mess behind," I said. "She left pain," Madame Choi corrected. "But also, possibility. And now you have to decide what you'll do with both." I stood slowly, notebook clutched in my hand. The rain outside had stopped, but the storm inside me was only getting started. I didn't mean to find the festival. I was just walking, needing air, needing anything that didn't smell like perfume and lies, and I followed the music. The street was closed off, strung with lights that dipped low between the buildings like captured stars. Booths lined the sidewalk. cotton candy spinning in neon colors, vendors shouting over each other, children chasing bubbles in glittery masks. It felt alive. For the first time since waking up in this stolen body, I didn't feel like I was suffocating. I drifted through the crowd like a ghost pretending to be human. I bought a skewer of grilled meat from a stand and sat on a bench tucked between two trees wrapped in fairy lights. It was quiet here, almost hidden, and that's where he found me. Taehyun. He didn't approach right away, just stood at the edge of the crowd, hands in his coat pockets, gaze steady and unreadable. Our eyes met. He walked over. "What are the odds?" he said. "I thought you didn't believe in coincidences," I replied, trying not to choke on my heart. He gave a slight shrug. "I don't. But maybe I'm making an exception tonight." He sat beside me, not too close, but not far enough for me to pretend I couldn't feel the heat radiating from him. Neither of us spoke for a moment. "Then you look different," he said. I glanced at him, wary. "Better or worse?" He tilted his head. "Less like you're carrying a knife behind your back." I laughed, surprised, sharp, real. His eyes widened slightly. "That's the first time I've heard you laugh." "That's because I haven't," I said before I could stop myself. He looked at me, curious. I backtracked. "Not like that. Not in a long time." He didn't press. Instead, he nodded toward the lights. "Want to walk?" I nodded. We wandered past booths selling handmade jewelry and novelty socks. Kids darted between our legs like streaks of color. Someone handed us paper lanterns, red with gold trim, and told us to make a wish before releasing them. I stared down at mine. "What did you wish for?" he asked. "Peace," I said. "You?" He hesitated. A second chance. I looked at him then, really looked. "You think we get those?" He gave a sad smile. "Not often, but sometimes someone offers you one, and you don't even realize it until it's almost too late." My chest tightened. "Who offered yours?" He didn't answer. Instead, he said, "I've been thinking about that night on the roof." I stopped walking. He turned to face me. "I didn't go there to save her," he said. "I went there because I thought maybe I could stop carrying guilt for watching someone disappear before and doing nothing." My fingers curled at my sides. But when I saw her, you, standing there, I felt it again. That helplessness. He stepped closer. "But then you looked back. Just for a second. And it wasn't Sora looking at me, it was someone else. Someone screaming for help with their eyes." I swallowed hard. He searched my face now the same way he had then, as if trying to find the person he'd only glimpsed through a crack. "I don't know who you are," he said softly, "but with you, there's warmth, and it scares the hell out of me." I felt tears sting behind my eyes. Why? Because if I trust that warmth and I'm wrong, someone else gets hurt. Again, we stood in the glow of red paper lanterns. Firelight flickered between us. "I'm not who I was," I said quietly. He nodded. "Neither am I." He reached out, brushed a strand of hair from my face. His fingers lingered against my cheek, warm, trembling slightly. It would have been so easy to lean in, to let him kiss me, but I stepped back. Not because I didn't want it, because I did, too much. "I can't," I whispered, "not yet." He nodded again. No anger, just understanding. "Okay," he said, "but if you ever do, just know I'll be here, not for the person you were, or the one you're pretending to be." He looked at me, steady and unflinching. "For you, whoever that is." The lanterns began to rise all around us, red stars floating upward, carrying the wishes of strangers into the dark. And for the first time, I wished mine would come true. The building hadn't changed. Old brick, faded signage, windows too high to see through. My father's old office stood like a relic of power frozen in time, forgotten, but not forgiven. I used to come here after school, sitting on the worn leather couch while he took meetings behind that heavy oak door. Back then, I thought the world began and ended with the sound of his voice. Now I knew better. I didn't have a key, but the side door had always been a little loose. A well-placed shoulder and a sharp breath cracked it open. Dust coated everything, furniture under sheets. A half-dead plant still sat in the corner like it was waiting to be watered. The air smelled like paper and time. I made my way to the back, to his private office, the one he never let anyone else enter. Except me. I still remembered the way he'd smile at me when he thought I wasn't paying attention, like I was just a tool he was sharpening. I crossed the room to the bookcase, third shelf, behind the company's fake annual report binders. My hands moved on instinct, fingers finding the latch behind the books. A small mechanical click. The shelf slid slightly forward, revealing a recessed wall safe. The combination came back before I even questioned it. November 19th, 2007, my birthday. I wanted to laugh, or scream. Instead, I opened it. Inside, manila folders, a flash drive, and a small black leather-bound notebook. No gold lettering, no initials. I took everything and sat at the old desk. The first folder was labeled Min Hyun Holdings. I opened it. Contracts, signatures, transfers. But not between my father and Hyun. Between Sora and Hyun. I scanned pages, heart slamming against my ribs. She had been made a proxy. My father had used her name to move money, forge documents, and position her as the scapegoat if things ever went south. He'd signed every deal, smiling all the way to the bank. Then I plugged in the flash drive. There were 6 audio files, all dated around the time I was suspended from work, and the media started tearing me apart. I clicked on the first one. She's soft. She believes in people. That's her weakness. Use that. My father's voice. Next file. If you want the old man's blessing, make sure she falls first. Do it right and we'll catch her on the way down. Hyun. I covered my mouth. They hadn't just let it happen. They planned it, word for word, scene by scene. Everything I lost, my job, my name, my self-respect, it wasn't an accident. It was a performance. And Sora? She was just another actor under contract. I opened the notebook last. It wasn't hers. It was my father's. Notes, schedules, memos, names of reporters, payouts. My fall had been scheduled like a quarterly report. I pushed everything off the desk with a scream. Papers flew. The chair toppled. Dust spiraled in the slant of sunlight breaking through the blinds. I dropped to my knees, my fists clenched in the fabric of my dress, and for the first time since I woke up in this nightmare, I cried like Rin, not Sora. Not whoever the world thought I was now, but me. They destroyed me, and they destroyed her too. She hadn't been innocent, but she'd never stood a chance. None of us had. I stayed there a long time, letting the truth burn its way through every lie I'd clung to, through every memory I'd tried to make sense of. There was no making sense of it, only surviving it, only choosing what to do with it. I finally stood, picked up the drive, the papers, the notebook, and as I stepped back out into the daylight, my heartbeat was calm, steady. I knew now. I wasn't here for revenge anymore. I was here for justice. I didn't plan to go to him. I told myself I just needed to walk, to breathe, to get away from the files burning a hole in my bag, the truth that had shattered whatever was left of my past. But my feet knew where they were going before I did. Taehyun's apartment was in a high-rise tucked away from the noise of the city. Minimalist, warm, too clean to feel lived in. Yet somehow it still smelled like him. Like cedar wood and something steadier. Safer. He opened the door before I could even knock, like he was waiting. Neither of us said anything at first. Then he stepped aside, wordlessly inviting me in. I walked past him, slow, my shoulders tight. The living room glowed with dim light from 2 candles on the table. A blanket was folded neatly on the couch. A book lay open on the floor, like he'd dropped it mid-thought. He closed the door behind me, quietly, then turned, and waited. I turned to face him. "I have to tell you something," I said, My voice didn't shake, but my hands did. He said nothing, just watched me. "I'm not Sora," I said. Still, he didn't move. I never was. Not really. "My name is Rin." Something flickered in his expression. Not shock, not denial, just stillness. Like his heart had paused for one beat. "You saved me," I went on, barely above a whisper. "That night. On the roof. You don't know it, but you did." He stepped forward. I knew. I stared at him. "I didn't know how," he said, voice low. "But I knew it wasn't her. Not anymore. Not completely." My throat tightened. "I died that night," I said. "Or I was supposed to. But somehow, I woke up in her life, with her voice, her mistakes, and no way out." I looked at him then, finally, and my eyes stung. "I didn't want to fall for you," I said. "It felt like betrayal, to myself, to who I was. But I see you, I always did, even when I was too broken to speak it." He took one step closer, then another, and another, until he was close enough for me to feel the warmth of him again. "You're alive," he said simply. "No," I whispered. "I'm what's left of someone who used to be alive." He reached out and touched my face, gently, like he was afraid I might disappear. "Then I'll take what's left," he said, "and help you remember the rest." I didn't answer. I didn't have to, because his mouth found mine. Slow, certain, no urgency, just presence, just truth, no past, no masks, no lies, just Rin and Taehyun. Two people who had lost everything, finding each other again in the quiet. The chandelier above the ballroom glistened like a cage made of diamonds. Below it, the elite of the city sipped champagne and made polite conversation, their laughter brittle and calculated. It was the annual Min Foundation charity auction. All white linens and blood-red wine, tailored gowns and tighter masks. I stood backstage, hands folded over the small flash drive in my palm. Tonight, I wasn't Rin. I wasn't Sora. I was truth with a face. "Ladies and gentlemen," the host called, his voice smooth over the microphone. "Please welcome our honored patron, Miss Sora Min." Applause erupted as I stepped onto the stage, heels clicking softly beneath me. I looked out at them all, familiar faces in unfamiliar light. My father, seated in the second row, tanned, calm, a wolf in a tux. Hyun beside him, his arm draped over the chair like this was just another business dinner. And Sora's mother, lips painted too red, spine too straight, eyes like polished knives. I let them look at me. I let them think they still owned the story. Then I smiled. "Thank you," I began, voice steady, "for joining us tonight in support of the Min Foundation. But before we begin the auction, I have something I need to say." The room hushed a little. A ripple of curiosity passed through the crowd. I pulled the flash drive from my pocket. "This foundation," I said, "was built on image, on perfection, on the illusion of control. But illusions have a way of shattering. When you shine enough light." I plugged the drive into the projector. The screen behind me lit up. Folders, files, names. "I was used," I said, "by people who should have protected me. I was used to destroy a woman named Rin." Gasps, stirring. My father's head tilted. Hyun's smile faltered. "In this room," I continued, "are people who orchestrated a plan to ruin her, her name, her future, her life. Not because she did anything wrong, but because she trusted them." I opened the first audio file. "She's soft. She believes in people. That's her weakness. Use that." The room stilled. A few turned toward my father. I opened the second. "Make her fall. We'll catch her on the way down." Hyun stood abruptly. "Turn it off," he barked. "That's enough." People began to whisper. Someone called out, "Is that real?" I played one more. "If this goes south, she takes the fall." "Not us." That one landed like a slap. My father rose from his seat, but he didn't speak. He simply watched me, calculating, waiting to see which way the crowd would turn. And then someone else stood. A uniformed officer who stepped toward Hyun and said, calmly. "You'll need to come with us." The crowd erupted into murmurs, flashes of phones, the hum of chaos building like a wave. Hyun turned to me, jaw tight. "You think this changes anything?" I met his gaze. "It already has." As he was led away, I turned to my father. "And you," I said, voice cool, "you taught me how to lie, how to smile while breaking people. Thank you. It helped me survive." He didn't flinch, he just nodded once, as if conceding a round in a long, quiet war. Then I faced Sora's mother. "You turned your daughter into a brand," I said. "And now the world sees the cost of it." She looked at me like I was filth under her heel. But she said nothing. She didn't have to. She'd already lost. I stepped back to the mic one last time. "My name doesn't matter anymore," I said. "I was her. I was me. I've been both the blade and the wound. But now," I exhaled, "I'm free. From all of you." I walked off stage as the room fractured into noise. Cameras flashing, whispers flying like daggers. But I didn't hear any of it, because I was already outside, under the night sky, breathing like it was the first breath I'd taken in years. Not Rin, not Sora, just me. The ocean was still. Gentle waves kissed the sand with rhythmic patience, like the world was reminding me how to breathe. I walked barefoot, the cold morning air brushing against my skin, toes sinking into wet earth. The sky above was just starting to change, bruised indigo softening into streaks of gold and rose. Taehyun walked beside me in silence. No suits, no masks, just us, quiet and real. We'd driven here the night after the auction. No plan, no destination. Just a need to escape the noise, to stand somewhere that felt bigger than everything we'd lost, and everything we might still become. For a long time we didn't speak. And then, he asked, "If you could choose again, would you go back?" I stopped walking. The question hung in the salty air between us. Back. To who I was before the fall. Before Sora, before betrayal and bloodlines and ghosts in glass towers. Would I choose that version of me? Innocent, blind, unbroken. I turned to face him. His hair was tousled by the sea breeze, eyes steady. Quiet hope flickering beneath the surface. I smiled, not the practiced kind, the real one. "No," I said, "I wouldn't go back." His brows lifted slightly, not in disbelief, but in wonder. "I'd choose it all again," I continued. "The lies, the pain, the nights I didn't think I'd survive, even waking up in her body, even falling for you when I shouldn't have." His hand found mine. "And even if it breaks me again," I whispered, "I'd choose you." He didn't answer with words, he just held my hand tighter, like he understood, like he felt it too. The tide crept up and swirled around our ankles, icy and alive. Above us, the first light of day stretched across the sky, soft and gold, raking over the horizon like a promise. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was running from my past. I was walking toward something mine.